Welcome to part 2 of chapter 3 of Esperanza Rising. We're going to start on page 30, right where Esperanza notices that her uncles have her father's belt buckle. And then Esperanza noticed the belt buckle. Papa's belt buckle on Tio Lewis's belt. It was wrong. Everything was wrong. Tio Lewis should not be sitting in Papa's chair. He should not be wearing Papa's belt buckle with the brand of the ranch on it. For the thousandth time, she wiped the tears that slipped down her face, but this time they were angry tears. A look of indignation passed between Mama and Abuelita. Were they feeling the same? Ramona, said the lawyer, your husband, Sixto Ortega, left this house and all of its contents to you and your daughter. You will also receive the yearly income from the grapes. As you know, it is not customary to leave land to women, and since Lewis was the banker on the loan, Sixto left the land to him. Which makes things rather awkward, said Tio Lewis. I am the bank president and would like to live accordingly. Now that I own this beautiful land, I would like to purchase the house from you for this amount. He handed Mama a piece of paper. Mama looked at it and said, This is our home. My husband meant for us to live here. And the house? It is worth 20 times this much. So no, I will not sell. Besides, where would we live? I predicted you would say no, Ramona, said Tio Lewis, and I have a solution to your living arrangements. A proposal, actually. One of marriage. Who is he talking about? Thought Esperanza. Who would marry him? He cleared his throat. Of course, we would wait the appropriate amount of time out of respect for my brother. 1 year is customary, is it not? Even you can see that with your beauty and reputation and my position at the bank, we could be a very powerful couple. Did you know that I, too, have been thinking of entering politics? I am going to campaign for governor. And what woman would not want to be the governor's wife? Esperanza could not believe what she heard. Mama marry Tio Lewis? Marry a goat? She looked wide-eyed at him, then at Mama. Mama's face looked as if it were in terrible pain. She stood up and spoke slowly and deliberately. I have no desire to marry you, Lewis, now or ever. Frankly, your offer offends me. Tio Lewis's face hardened like a rock, and the muscles twitched in his narrow neck. You will regret your decision, Ramona. You must keep in mind that this house and those grapes are on my property. I can make things difficult for you, very difficult. I will let you sleep on the decision, for it is more than generous. Tio Lewis and Tio Marco put on their hats and left. The lawyer looked uncomfortable and began gathering documents. Vultures, said Abuelita. Can he do this? Asked Mama. Yes, said the lawyer. Technically, he is now your landlord. But he could build another house, bigger and more pretentious, anywhere on the property, said Mama. It is not the house that he wants, said Abuelita. It is your influence he wants. People in this territory loved Sixto and respect you. With you as his wife, Louis could win any election. Mama stiffened. She looked at the lawyer and said, Please officially relay this message to Louis. I will never, ever change my mind. I will do that, Ramona, said the lawyer, but be careful. He is a devious, dangerous man. The lawyer left, and Mama collapsed into a chair, put her head in her hands, and began to cry. Esperanza ran to her. Don't cry, Mama. Everything will be all right. But she didn't sound convincing, even to herself, because all she could think about was what Tio Lewis had said. that Mama would regret her decision. That evening, Hortensia and Alfonso sat with Mama and Abuelita discussing the problem. Esperanza paced and Miguel quietly looked on. Will the income from the grapes be enough to support the house and the servants? Said Mama. Maybe, said Alfonso. Then I will stay in my home, said Mama. Do you have any other money? Asked Alfonso. I have money in the bank, asked Abuelita. I have money in the bank, announced Abuelita. And then more quietly she added, Louis's bank. He would prevent you from taking it out, said Hortensia. If we need help, we could borrow money from our friends. From Senor Rodriguez, said Esperanza. Your uncles are very powerful and corrupt, said Alfonso. They can make things difficult for anyone who tries to help you. Remember, they are the banker and the mayor. The conversation continued to go in circles. Esperanza finally excused herself. She walked out to Papa's garden and sat on a stone bench. Many of the roses had dropped their petals, leaving the stem and the rosehip, the green, grape-like fruit of the rose. Abuelita said the rosehip contained the memories of the roses, and that when you drank tea made from it, you took in all the beauty that the plant had known. These roses have known Papa, she thought. She would ask Hortensia to make rosehip tea tomorrow. Miguel found her in the garden and sat beside her. Since Papa died, he had been polite, but still had not talked to her. Anza, he said, using her childhood name, which rose is yours? In recent years, his voice had become a deep throttle. She hadn't realized how much she missed hearing it. The sound brought tears to her eyes, but she quickly blinked them away. She pointed to the miniature pink blooms with delicate stems that climbed up the trellises. And where is mine? Asked Miguel, nudging her like he did when they were younger and told each other everything. Esperanza smiled and pointed to the orange sunburst next to it. They had been young children the day Papa had planted one for each of them. What does it all mean, Miguel? There are rumors in town that Louis intends to take over the ranch, one way or another. Now that it seems true, we will probably leave for the United States to work. Esperanza shook her head as if to say no. She could not imagine living without Hortensia, Alfonso, and Miguel. My father and I have lost faith in our country. We were born servants here, and no matter how hard we work, we will always be servants. Your father was a good man. He gave us a small piece of land and a cabin. But your uncles, you know their reputation. They would take it all away and treat us like animals. We will not work for them. The work is hard in the United States, but at least there we have a chance to be more than servants. But Mama and Abuelita, they need, we need you. My father says we won't leave until it is necessary. He reached over and took her hand. I'm sorry about your papa. His touch was warm, and Esperanza's heart skipped. She looked at her hand in his and felt the color rushing to her face. Surprised at her own blush, she pulled away from him. She stood and stared at the roses. An awkward silence built a wall between them. She glanced quickly at him. He was still looking at her, with eyes full of hurt. Before Miguel left her there, he said softly, You were right, Esperanza. In Mexico, we stand on different sides of the river. This concludes part 2 of chapter 3. Please look for the third part of chapter 3, which will finish page 37 and read page 38. Thank you.